even with limited time, space, and money, we can still get great organic harvests. Guten Yardening, everybody! You know, I like to think that most of us as gardeners are realists and that we understand that we have limits on what we're able to do both indoors and outdoors, and that a large part of those limits come down to the three things I mentioned at the beginning of this video, which are space, time, and money. Because depending on our job, depending on where we live, depending on any number of factors, well, we can't always get what we want. And so we have to be creative, and this is an example, I think, of that creativity. Proof that even if you don't have a ton of time, if you don't have very much space at all, and certainly inexpensively, you can still grow amazing organic crops. What we have here are Parisian carrots. And if you've never seen these carrots before, my daughter actually did a harvest of these outdoors. They're smaller carrots. They grow to about 1 inch to 2 inches in diameter. They are a round carrot versus being an elongated carrot. And they grow really nicely indoors and outdoors. And perhaps even more importantly, they can grow in a container like this. This is a small container. It's less than a square foot. It's about 2 inches deep in terms of the soil inside. And we got this as a part of a purchase at the grocery store. It's food safe plastic, and it's something that you would get, let's say, a hot bar or something like that in from the grocery store. This container came to us as a part of another purchase. So essentially, it's free for the sake of upcycling and for what we're using it for today. So we have this container, and inside we have a soilless potting mix. Now the soilless potting mix does have some costs associated with it, but it's part of the bigger picture of what we're planting in here. And since we're only using a small part, there's probably about 10 to 15 cents worth of soilless potting mix in here, and the other mix we're using elsewhere. Now on top of that, we have our Parisian carrots. Now these carrots cost a little bit more. They're about $4 for a pack of seeds, and yet you get about 300 seeds in that pack. So we're talking just a little bit over 1 penny per seed up here. And I counted the plants, and it looks like we have about a dozen plants on top of this container. So when we add everything together, we're looking at about 25 cents here with all costs, all materials included. Now granted, that initial expenditure is a little bit higher if we're talking about the fertilizer and the soilless potting mix, the bigger containers. But again, we then have all of that material that we're not going to have to purchase again. So what we have in this one little spot is again about a quarter. Now, carrots don't take a lot of attention. So all we have to do is make sure that the potting mix is nice and loose and allows the carrots to expand easily. And in a container like this with our potting mix that we use of coco cure and peat moss and a little bit of vermiculite, there's no problem there. And then we have to make sure that we keep the vegetables watered. And there are no holes in this one. You'll notice that we didn't actually put any holes in this for drainage because this can be sat anywhere that you want it. So even if you don't have a spot to cover it underneath, or you don't have a place where it's outdoors, if you want to grow this indoors, you can set it anywhere that you like. Just don't overwater it. Just water it enough to get the soil nice and moist. You don't want it to pool because that'll kill them. So if you water this every other day as needed, you don't have to spend very much time. A simple check of sticking your finger into the soil to make sure it's damp enough will be all that you need to confirm that you have been keeping your carrots and the soil in your carrots plenty moist, and so that it's going to continue growing. So we want to encourage you, if your rationale behind not attempting to grow something for the first time or not attempting to continue gardening is that you don't have enough time, space, or money, remember that the possibility of you coming in here and being able to grow something organic in limited space is right there, and it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. If you've tried to buy lumber recently, you know what I'm talking about. Trying to build a raised bed right now might not be the most cost-effective time to start your garden in that way. But what you can do is a little bit of upcycling, and you can still have a fantastic harvest. That's a meal's worth in here, and we did it in less than a square foot and really inexpensively. And I did not have to take a lot of my time, as we've been busy with a lot of the other things that we're growing in here. I didn't have to take a lot of time to come in and make this harvest happen. And so we encourage you to try this out. The only thing I'm going to have to do now is to maybe replenish some of the nutrients in here over time, but that's not even likely the case yet. And so if I put another 10 cents worth of seeds in here, I can have another fantastic harvest. And I don't even have to put carrots in here. I can put some other vegetable that's not going to need a ton of root space or a ton of depth, and I'm going to end up with more organic food for less. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.